I want to talk to you today about why co-living is the fastest way to increase your rental income right now. So I'm going to go over traditional rentals versus the co-living income gap, and then also how the demand for affordable housing is rising and why this model works right now. And I'm also going to talk about the opportunity and the growth, and then also the profit potential of going into a co-living business and how to open a group home in or co-living home in 6 steps. And then I'll also go over how I can help you with opening your own co-living home in 6 weeks up to 90 days. There's not going to be any hard sell. If you want to book a call with me, you're welcome to book a call with me. Otherwise, I just really appreciate that you would take the time to attend this webinar tonight. Okay, so what is co-living? So some people call it a group home. I'm one of those people. I'm guilty of calling it a group home because I opened my 3 co-living homes years ago when group home was kind of the term that was thrown around. And actually, what I have are not group homes anymore by the definition of the state of Texas as of 2025. So, as of 2025 in the state of Texas, if you have a home that's not providing any services whatsoever, that's not a group home. A group home provides personal care services that are non medical. And I don't provide any services at all in my homes. All I do is take a residential home and I break it up and I rent it out by the room or by the bed within that room. So, for example, on this slide, we have 2 beds that are in this room. And actually, this room is double size. So there's 4 beds in there, but 2 beds in that room. So it's a shared bedroom. So instead of renting out an entire house, I rent it out by the bed or by the room. So that's co-living. Co-living is shared residential housing, kind of like Golden Girls. So everybody remembers that show Golden Girls, where it was these older ladies and they all had their own rooms in a house and they shared all the bills together. So that's basically what co-living is. Now, as an owner operator of a co-living home, you, the owner operator, would handle all of the bills. So you would handle all the utilities. So it's usually all inclusive, meaning that utilities are included. So if somebody comes to you and they're renting a room from you, they're paying one rate, and that rate it covers the bed and it covers all their utilities. So water, electric, internet, gas, that is all covered with that one rate that they pay for their bed. So it makes it very easy for people who maybe have a hard time with keeping up with bills, because there are a lot of people who have mental disabilities where they're okay. They can handle all their activities of daily living on their own, but maybe they can't be responsible for paying all these different bills because they just don't have it. Okay. So maybe they need something that's all inclusive. So they pay this one low rate and it includes all their utilities. So like I said, with this model, the model that I teach, services are not included. So a question I get is, what is the difference between what you do, co-living, and assisted living? So with assisted living, services are included. And by services, I mean help with activities of daily living. That's something that you hear a lot. ADLs in this industry. You hear about activities of daily living. Activities of daily living are toileting, bathing, feeding, medication management. Those are the types of things that require certification. So once you start offering help with ADLs, you must be certified because they want to make sure that you're doing everything in accordance with the law for the patient's safety. That's another thing. In assisted living, they talk about patients. Group homes or co-living homes have residents. And actually, some people call them members. Like in the pad split model, they talk about members because it's different members of their LLC. And some people call them tenants because legally they are tenants because they sign a lease. So tenants, residents, members, whatever you want to call them, they are not patients. So when they sign a lease, they are legally a tenant, but I do like to use the word resident. So it's ingrained in their minds that if they break a certain rule, then I can put them out. So I also get the question, what about people who do need help with their ADLs, with their activities of daily living? I can actually still house those people. It's just that their help doesn't come from me. It does not come from my company. That help must be outsourced. So a third party provides that help. And that's where home health agencies come into play. So medication management, feeding, if somebody needs a nurse or any kind of helper, that kind of help comes from a different organization or different company and not my company. Because again, my company is unlicensed. I do unlicensed co-living. Sometimes the people who live in my houses have what they call provider hours. So with provider hours, they can have a family member or friend come and help them for a few hours a day, and that's covered by their insurance. So either way, the help that they need does not come from my business because my business is unlicensed. Okay, so if they need help with any of those activities of daily living, that help comes from someone else. Now, with people always ask me also about multifamily, like, can I do this in a multifamily unit? You can do it in a multifamily, but I will tell you that with co-living in a single family home, which is what I recommend, is a single family home, not a multi-family home. There's lower maintenance costs in a single family home because a multi-unit is actually multiple addresses. Whereas with co-living, the way I teach it is that it's a single family home and there's one electric bill, one gas bill, one internet bill. So you're not having all of these different addresses. And also, I recommend that you get a house that has at least 4 bedrooms. And in multifamily, sometimes it's like a 2-bed, 1-bath on one side and like a 3-bed. So you need a big, the bigger the better, single family home to do this type of business. And you actually don't have to buy the house. You can rent the house and do this business. And also with co-living, you earn 10 times the amount of a regular rental. The outlook on the business is really good. I actually was just interviewing someone from PadSplit right before this call, and we were talking about how co-living is just going to grow because of several reasons. One is the aging baby boomer population. So 10,000 baby boomers turn 65 every single day. And that's a trend that is going to continue through the year 2030. So by 2030, 1 in 5 Americans will be 65 or older. And a lot of those people are going to need supportive housing, like that assisted living that I was talking about, but not all of them are going to need that full scale assisted living. Plus, assisted living costs on average $4,500 a month up to $6,000 a month. And it actually goes up from there. Like if you go into some of the luxury ones, they're $10,000 a month. And that prices out a lot of people. That prices out a lot of adults. And so, plus not all of them need help. Like I was saying, not everybody needs a $5,000 a month assisted living facility. Many of those people just need a safe, stable, shared living space because they want companionship too. And so that's where co-living homes step in, and the demand is only rising. Number 2, the housing affordability crisis. So rent and home prices are skyrocketing, and shared housing is the only affordable option for a lot of low-income adults. Even working professionals, a lot of working professionals are deciding to go into a co-living space so they can save money. They need to save their money for a while before they can afford to get into something of their own. And so, 55%, let me give you this stat too. 55% of low income renters spend more than 30% of their income on housing. So they're spending a third of their income just to have a roof over their head. So shared housing isn't just about making more income for us, it's also solving a real housing problem. Cities need this model. And then the decline in private room supply. So new construction does not favor affordable shared housing. New construction favors luxury or large single family homes. And as private housing costs rise, room rentals and co-living offer a more scalable solution. And landlords who make a pivot to co-living can really benefit from this. And then lastly, we have social isolation and mental health. So, adults with mental health challenges, disabilities, or substance recovery needs often thrive in structured and shared environments. So, group homes and co living homes give them community and not just a roof over their head. So, the power of this model is both in the profit and in the purpose. It meets a real need for society. Plus, 1 in 4 adults in the United States lives with a disability or a mental health condition. So, when you combine the aging demographics of the country, plus the housing shortages and the affordability issues and shifting preferences, co living and independent living group homes are not just a trend, they're actually the future. So, here's a little bit about me. I am Katrina E. Robinson. And I have 3 co-living homes in San Antonio, Texas, but I actually live in Los Angeles, California. So when I opened my homes, a lot of people started asking me how I'm doing this remotely and how do I go about doing this myself, especially people who already had properties, but their properties weren't making them much money. So they started asking me to help them. So I started helping people. And now that's what I do. Now I help future group home operators start and run their own co living homes so they can create this profitable and purpose driven business without getting overwhelmed by the process. I'm very into processes and documenting step by step what needs to be done because of my background. So I was in the military for 6 years. And in the military, I was in operations management. So I'm very into operations and making sure that there's a routine in place and documenting standard operating procedures or SOPs. So, anyhow, I just document everything that I do, and I like to make things scalable, and I like to make it easy for the next time I have to do it. Because when I opened my first home, I knew that I wasn't going to just stick to that one. I was going to open a next one. So that's why I documented all of my processes so that house number 2 would be easier to open. And then I just started sharing my checklist with people, and then I made it into a business. So this is why you're here on this webinar right now. So how did I get into this? About 6 years ago now, I was looking for a side hustle, something that would bring me some money, the most money with the least amount of work. And it's not that I don't like to work. I'm used to hard work. I'm very used to hard work. Like I said, I was in the military for 6 years. I've been to war, I've been to Iraq, I've seen the world, and I really just wanted to live my best life in California. So I was living on Redondo Beach, California, and which is beautiful, in a little 1-bedroom apartment. And I went to an assisted living training because I knew that because I was interested in real estate, that was a way to maximize my income is to go into assisted living because that's what I had heard of before. So I went to this assisted living training in person. And that's when I learned a ton of information. And I learned that I needed to become certified for my state. So I went through the certification process for both Texas and California. And why Texas? So I went to high school in Texas because my mom was stationed there. I also was stationed there in San Antonio for 6 years. All 6 years while I was in the military, I was stationed in San Antonio. So I'm very familiar with San Antonio. And then California, I live in California. So I didn't know which one I wanted to open my assisted living in. So I took both of the trainings. Then I was this close to buying an existing assisted living facility, a business that was already existing, and the people were retiring. So I was going to buy it from them when I lost my sister unexpectedly and I got custody of her 2 daughters. So when that happened, I just didn't want, I was stressed and I just didn't want the responsibility of having an assisted living facility, a brand new one, because I knew that I would need to have people on payroll. I would be paying a nurse, excuse me, a nurse, a cook, and I just didn't want that responsibility. And I did not want to end up on the news for anything bad happening at my assisted living facility. So during the option period of that purchase, I pulled out of that deal to buy that assisted living facility. And someone who I met at the Residential Assisted Living Academy asked me, why don't I go into unlicensed group homes? Now, I had never heard of unlicensed group homes before, and I thought that unlicensed meant illegal. So I was like, oh no, I am not doing that. I'm not doing anything unlicensed. I'm not doing anything illegal. But once I learned what it really was, I was like, well, yeah, I could do that. I could just rent out a place by the bed to people who need affordable housing and I could still make money. So I could be helping them and I could be making money too. So I bought a house in San Antonio that was a complete fixer. It was a fixer upper. It could have been a complete tear down. I'm talking about rain coming through the roof. The foundation was messed up. The roof was messed up. Everything and anything and everything in that house was messed up. It was disgusting. So I bought this house and I completely renovated it by cashing out my retirement. Now, when I told people that I was going to cash out my retirement to do this business, every single person who I told said not to do that. They said, don't ever cash out your retirement. Are you crazy? You don't do that, blah, 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 blah. So I stopped telling people. I stopped telling people what I was going to do. And I went ahead and I kept my eyes on the prize. I knew what I was going to do. And I knew that if this thing worked, when this thing worked, that I was going to make more money per month than my retirement was going to be. And fast forward, and it did. So when I opened my first independent living group home, it had 15 beds in it because it was a humongous house. It had 15 beds in it. And I charged $560 a month per bed. $560 a month per bed times 15 beds is what? $8,400 a month in gross rents. $8,400 a month. So after that, I was sold. I mean, the people who were telling me not to ever do that, they could go kick rocks because I was making a lot of money. So anyway, after that, I was done. I was convinced that this was what I was going to do now in life. I was going to do my independent living because I love real estate and to take something that I already love, real estate, and then also help people who need affordable housing and make all this money and not have it be a full-time job. I was like, this is what I'm going to do now. So that's what I did. So I stacked up my money and I bought my second house, stacked up that money and bought the third house. And I had this newfound confidence because I didn't listen to the naysayers and I went ahead and did what I knew I wanted to do, what God was telling me to do, because that's what I was doing, was listening to myself, which is God. And I wanted to just do what I knew that I needed to do and not listen to the people around me who were trying to amplify my doubts. Because I already had doubts in my head. I didn't need other people amplifying those doubts and making them sound bigger. So I just stopped telling those people. And sometimes that's what we have to do. If you know this is what you want to do, but you're afraid, maybe I will dispel some of those myths tonight on this webinar. But just do it, no matter what it is, even if it's not this. Like if you want to do something else and it's been nagging at you, just do it because life is too short. Okay, let's get into the profit potential. So on the left-hand side, we have a single family rental. It's a 4-bedroom house. And let's say you're going to rent out that single family home for $2,000 a month. So you're renting it out for $2,000 and your mortgage is $1,800. If your mortgage is $1,800 and you're renting it out for $2,000, your profit is what? Your profit is $200. That's general, and this is like typical. This is very typical for real estate deals. If you have, like, when people say I have 15 doors, they might have 15 different properties, and they're all bringing in this kind of money, like 200 each or something like that. Now, let's turn this same house into a co-living house on the next slide. I actually should take this slide out because 500 is super low. But anyway, let's say you're charging $500 a month per bed. So $500 a month times 8 beds, because we're putting 2 beds in each of the rooms. So 500 times 8 beds is $4,000. So 4,000, we still have to subtract the 1,800 for the mortgage. Okay, so we're still subtracting 1,800. So now you're making 2,200. Compare 2,000 to 200, and what is that? That's 10x. Okay, so you have 10x your income. Let's go to something that's a little bit more realistic, which is 600. And actually 650 is more realistic, but let's say 600. So $600 a month times 8 beds is what? 4,800. Okay. Subtract 1,800, you're making 3,000. That's more than 10x. Okay, here's more normal. 8 beds times 650 a month, that's 5,200. Remember, this is shared bedrooms in a 4-bedroom house. But I know what you're saying. I know what you're thinking. If you're listening, I know what you're thinking. Didn't you say we're covering the utilities? Yes, we are. So, electric, gas, water, and internet. But even if you deduct the cost of utilities, you're still bringing in 10x the amount of a regular single family home. Does everybody see that? You're still bringing in, because 3,400, and if you subtract 1,000 for utilities, which you're probably not going to pay 1,000. I hope not 1,000 for utilities, but maybe 1,000 for utilities. That's 2,400. 2,400 compared to 2,000 is more than 10x. So you're still 10xing your income there. And like I said, when I opened my first house, it had 15 beds. Okay, 15 times $560 a month is 8,400, 8,400. My mortgage was 2,000. So we're subtracting 2,000 from the 8,400. Deduct another 1,000 for utilities, and I'm profiting over $5,000 a month. Over 5,000. It was like 5,400 that I was profiting each month. That's on one house. That's on one property, not on a job. That's not on a job. That's on one property. I also know you're probably thinking this. Okay, Katrina, that sounds good, but I do not want the headache of dealing with that many people's issues. If you have 15 people in one house, then you're getting 15 different phone calls when such and such happened. I hear you. So I outsourced my headache. I didn't want the headache either. So I outsourced the headache after a while. I actually did run the first home by myself for a long time. And then I ended up naming someone the resident in charge or house supervisor. And so they kind of took on some of those duties. And now I actually have an operations manager. And that comes in the last part of my training, my coaching program, is the autopilot part. So I show you how to find and hire and compensate an operations manager. So he gets a cut of the money, but I'm still making great money on this business. And like I said, I foresee a lot more working class people moving into co-living as a way to reduce their living costs. That's what Pad Split is all based on, is working class people who rent out a room. It's like the room is the new apartment with these people. So when you're marketing to working class people, you can charge more. Now, they probably will not want to share a bedroom, but maybe they'll pay $1,000. Maybe they'll pay $1,100 for a private room that includes utilities. And what you can charge depends on where you are in the country. Okay. So you are on this call for a reason. You're ready to bet on you. Maybe you're making that $200 a month. Maybe you already have rental properties and you're making $200 a month on each one. And then you learned about this model and you're like, wait a minute, I'm leaving money on the table. Maybe you want more income, more time freedom, more family time, or maybe you want to make a difference in the affordable housing crisis, or you want financial security, or a retirement plan that you're in control of. That's really what I wanted. I wanted a retirement plan that I was in control of, because I don't trust the government. I don't trust the government anymore. I used to work for the government for 23 years, but I still wanted something that I was in control of. So maybe you want to leave a legacy, or you want the tax benefits of having a legitimate business. Maybe you want to enjoy your work. Anyway, I just want to know, I want you to think about, what is your why? Like, why did you decide to log into this call today? And then also take a minute and think about the vision that you have for your life a year from now, 3 years from now, and 5 years from now. And how would having an extra $2,000 a month change your life? Because that's what I always tell all my coaching clients, is that they can count on basically making about $2,000 a month profit above and beyond their expenses when they get into this business. So $2,000 a month. How would an extra $2,000 a month change your life and the life of your family? And also, with what I teach you in my program, you're going to have more than one of these homes. After 90 days, when you fill all your beds, you will be ready to scale and open your second home. Believe me. Okay, so here is what you came for. This is the 6 steps to open your profitable co-living home. And how do I know this works? Because I've used this exact model to open all 3 of my group homes. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you my client, Kenya. So she signed the lease on her property during week 3 of my program. And during week 6 is when she had her open house event, and she filled 5 of her 9 beds during week 6 of my program. So, and yes, I said lease, because you do not have to buy a property to do this. All you have to do is rent a property and get permission from the landlord to sublease that property to other people. With the permission to sublease the property to other people, now you can start your business out of that house. So you don't have to buy a property to do this at all. Most of my coaching clients don't buy the property. They start off with renting. Then they stack their money and then they buy a property. So the first step in setting up your co-living business is reframing your thinking to have a CEO mindset. Step 2 is setting up the business and doing your market research. Then step 3 is you get the property. Step 4 is the marketing, because if you don't fill the beds, then you don't have a business. You have to fill the beds. It's the most important thing in this entire business, is filling your beds. That's the most important thing. And then after the marketing, we focus on the day-to-day operations. Then we focus on the efficiencies and putting everything on autopilot so that you can scale. Now, I'm going to show you my client, Kenya. She went through my coaching program and she opened her first co-living home in Baltimore. And like I said, she does not own this house. That is a rental. It's a rental property in Baltimore. And right after she had her open house and she filled 5 of her 9 beds, I had an interview with her on my YouTube channel. And then 5 months later, I did an interview with her and to see just how things are going. And she said that she is already opening property number 2 and 3. Number 2 and 3. Sorry, about to say 5 and 6. She's opening property number 2 and 3 already, because she already filled her beds and she was ready. With what she learned in my coaching program, she was ready to open her next properties. So anyway, let's get into these steps. So the first step is to get your mind right. You need positivity and determination and a CEO mindset. So what is a CEO mindset? That is strategic, decisive. You can't be wishy-washy, and growth oriented. It's about knowing that you can do this and also using a calendar. It's things like that. You wouldn't believe how many people don't use a calendar. Using a calendar, outsourcing the things that you don't need to do on your own. There's so many things that you can just pay for a shortcut. It's about being obsessed with your win, whatever your win is. So that's the CEO mindset. Also, not reinventing the wheel and thinking, who can do this for me? As a matter of fact, whenever I do something that I don't want to do and it's clearly not my strength, I think, who can do this for me next time? And online nowadays with the internet, I know I sound super old when I say that. With the internet, you can find someone to do everything for you. You don't have to do these things. If it's not something that you like doing, it's not something that you're good at, don't waste time. Don't waste time doing it. Get somebody else to do it for you. So that's the CEO mindset. Okay, number 2, setting up the business. So the next step is setting up your business. That includes doing market research. And okay, before I go on to that, market research, I want you to look up 3 things. 3 things for the market research. You need to know the cost of the properties in your area, whether you're going to buy or rent. And by the properties, I'm going to go into that in the next step, but at least 4 bedrooms. So how much is a 4-bedroom house in your area? So how much is the house? And then how much is a bed in a shared room? And you can find that by going on sites like PadSplit is one of the sites that you can go on. Also Roomies, Spare Room, Furnished Finder, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. How much is a bed in a shared room? And then how much is a private room? So how much is the cost of the property in the area? How much is a shared room in your area? And how much is a private room in your area? That's the market research that you're going to do. Then legal. So that is setting up your LLC. Set up your LLC. Some people decide to do this business as a nonprofit. That's fine. That is not my expertise. So if you want to set up your business, your group home business as a nonprofit, you can do that. You can definitely do that, but that is not what I go over in my coaching program. I go over setting it up as an LLC. Now, you are essentially just a landlord, and landlords do not have to have an LLC for their property management company. But when you get an LLC, now you can take advantage of business tax breaks. And that's the goal. You want to take advantage of business tax deductions. I am not an accountant, but what I teach you in my coaching program is everything that I have learned in the past 6 years of working with my accountant on all the different business tax breaks that you can take advantage of. So I do recommend that you get an LLC and that you get an accountant and or a tax strategist, but there's so much you can learn on the internet. But you can get yourself a tax strategist and learn about all the different business tax deductions that you can take advantage of. I do teach you in my course, but again, I'm not an accountant, but I teach you all the different tax breaks that I take advantage of. And remember that the biggest tax breaks and deductions are not for employees. They're for business owners. They always have been for business owners. So when you set up your business the right way, you can write off equipment, your phone, your home office, even your business travel. When I travel from Los Angeles to San Antonio to check on my homes, my 3 homes, that entire trip is a tax deduction. I'm talking about the Lyft ride to get to the airport, the flight, the rental car, the hotel. The entire trip is a tax deduction because I'm doing business. It's a business tax deduction. Also, you can deduct expenses that you're already paying for. So, for example, I need the internet to run my business. I have to have the internet. So, my internet at home is a tax deduction because I have to have the internet to run my business. You can also qualify for 100% depreciation on things like computers and vehicles. Now, I don't do that with vehicles because I live in Los Angeles and my homes are in San Antonio. But you can bet if I was in San Antonio, if I lived in San Antonio, I would have a business car for San Antonio, and that whole car would be a write-off. So anyway, look into all of that, but you can definitely take advantage of things when you set up your business the right way as an LLC or as a nonprofit, if that's what you choose to do. And then we also go into making sure you set up your business bank account. And, when you set up your business the right way, that's money back in your pocket. That's why it's so important to know things. You have to know things. Knowledge is power. Okay, getting the house. So in my coaching program, I go over how to identify viable properties, like what kind of house is good for this. You need to get a house that's at least 4 bedrooms. If you own the house, can you put up a wall and make another bedroom? Ask yourself that. Can you maybe renovate the garage and turn that into 2 rooms? So that's something you can do if you own the house. If you don't own the house, then just make sure you get a house with at least 4 bedrooms, at least 2 bathrooms, no carpet, no pool, in a nice enough neighborhood. I'm talking like a C-level neighborhood where everybody minds their own business and just goes to work or whatever. Not an F-level neighborhood, not where people are getting shot, not in an A-level neighborhood where everybody is in your business and being nosy and they want to know how many people are unrelated under that roof and all that. You want like a C-level neighborhood. And depending on the demographics of your residents, you may need parking for multiple cars. My residents don't have cars. So of the 28 beds that I have, 2 people have cars. So I don't need to worry about that. But if you are doing just travel nurses or just working professionals and things like that, you may need to have a available space to pour another pad, cement pad, for parking, if that's allowed in that neighborhood. So make sure that you have enough parking for your people. Also, close to public transportation is always good, especially for my residents. I need my houses to be close to public transportation because they all use public transportation. And then no homeowners association, no HOA. I'm sure you've heard of NIMBY. Anybody heard of NIMBY? NIMBY is not in my backyard, not in my backyard. That's the HOA. That's what they'll be for you. They'll be like, not in my backyard. We don't want that here. We don't want that type of house here. So just don't get a house that is in an HOA. Not that it's illegal to do this business. It's legal to do this business. As a matter of fact, many of the residents who you house will be protected classes. They will be protected by Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, which is called the Fair Housing Act. So most of the time, your residents are protected by the Fair Housing Act. There are many classes that are listed in the Fair Housing Act, and a lot of the people who you house will be protected, a protected class. So you will win in court when you go to court with HOA, but I don't want you to go to court. So just don't get a house in HOA. Just don't. And as you can do this business in a rental, like I said, so you do not have to buy a house. And to get a house, you want to contact landlords. I have a script for you. So it's a landlord pitch script. You can use that script to reach out to landlords, and you can set up the house for shared living, which I also give you in my coaching program, exactly how to set up the house, what furniture and what supplies you need. And you don't have to furnish the house all at once. You can furnish the common areas and then furnish one bedroom, put 2 beds in there, get those 2 people in, take that money and furnish the next room. So you do not have to pay for the entire house to be set up. We're going to do this in a smart way, and we're not going to spend all our money. We're going to spend a little bit of money to furnish the common areas. We're going to furnish that 1 bedroom. We're going to have an open house event. We're going to fill those 2 beds, and then we're going to furnish the next room. That's how we can do it on a budget. Okay, so how do we pay for the house? There are a lot of ways to pay for the house because, remember, this is not a special house. This is just a single family home. All it is a single family home. So if you're going to buy the house, then you could just use a conventional bank loan. Now, if it's not your primary, like if you're not going to move into it and then rent out the other rooms, which is house hacking, then it's not your primary. So it will be an investment property. If it's an investment property, more than likely, you need to put 20% down. 20%. There are creative ways. I had a guy who came to my conference last month who was talking about creative financing. There are ways to do creative financing to not have to put 20% down. But most of the time, you have to put 20% down on an investment property that you are not living in. There's the DSCR loan, which is the debt service coverage ratio loan. You could also raise capital, so you could use other people's money, OPM. Get a friend or family member to loan you the money, use OPM so that you can get this house. And then just write out a contract and say, like, I'll give you 8% interest on this loan if you give me this seed money so I can start my business. So you could do something like that. I've done that when I first started my business. I had a friend who had all this money sitting there, didn't know what to do with it. I was like, well, let me give you interest that's above what it's earning right now sitting there. So I'll give you a little bit more interest and we'll write out a contract, and then I'll just pay you, and it'll be just auto pay every month. I'll pay you for 3 years, and boom, that's how I was able to start my business. And then there's all kinds of other creative financing and partnerships. So you bring the knowledge to the table and they bring the money to the table. So that's something you could do too. So there's a lot of different ways that you could get yourself the house. Okay, marketing. So marketing is the absolute most important step because, like I said, if you don't fill the beds, then you don't have a business. You have a charity, you have a hobby, you don't have a business if you don't fill those beds. So we have to find you the right residents. How do you find the right residents? You need to connect with caseworkers, social workers, placement agents, housing navigators. There's a whole list of key terms that I give you when you're in my coaching program of the people to connect with so that you can fill your beds. And these are people who have direct access to the demographics who need housing. So I cast a wide net when I first started. I was like, I'll house who I wanted to house veterans, but veterans were not attracted to my house for whatever reason. So I cast a wide net. And I'm glad I did because I found out all these other demographics of people who are looking for housing. And that's what I recommend you do. Unless you have a specific heart for a certain type of people, or you have people that you absolutely do not want to house, then don't market to those. But otherwise, cast a wide net. Cast a wide net. I give you in my program, I give you 101 ways to fill your beds. And I go over the marketing materials that you can get and where to get them made. I also give you my open house event plan, and I teach you how to do a year of emails in one day. So in one day, we schedule out all our emails that are going to go out to caseworkers and social workers throughout the entire year so that your house stays top of mind with people all throughout the year. And every day that my email goes out, every time my email goes out, that's when the phone rings. That's when the phone rings because people are like, oh, do you have vacancies? Do you have vacancies? Because now I'm top of mind. So we go over that. And we also go over listing on all these different platforms like Spare Room, Roomies, Roomster. There's all these different places that you can post your vacancies. So anyway, do you think that you can find 8 people in your chosen city who are willing to share a room and pay one low all-inclusive rate for their monthly rent? Seriously, do you think? Now, some people are like, there's no way an adult would want to share a room with anyone. But you wouldn't want to. You wouldn't want to share a room with someone, but maybe there are people who do want to share a room because it's better than where they were. It's better than living on the street. It's better than living in their car. So there probably are 8 people. But I'll tell you what, if you don't think that you can find 8 people in your city, then you will not find 8 people in your city. You won't. You won't find them. If you don't think you can, then you won't find them. And then you could also do private rooms too. If you want to just do private rooms and you don't have to worry about finding 8, you could find 4. Do you think you could find 4 people in your city who are willing to share a house? Do you? If you think you can, then you will. Okay. So we have covered 4 of the 6 steps. And I'm explaining at a very surface level, but I know that someone who's here on this call wants to dive deeper. So before we move on to the last 2 steps, I'm going to take a couple of minutes to share how I can help you with my coaching program. If you're still here, put a yes in the chat. Do you know how lonely it is to talk to just a screen? I make these webinars, but sometimes I should make it like a meeting so I could see the people. All right. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. Thank you. Now I don't feel so lonely. Okay. So my startup intensive program, this may not be for you. This may not be for you, but it might be perfect for someone who's in here. So this is what comes in my startup intensive program. Wouldn't all this be easier if you had a mentor, if you had checklists and templates and someone to hold you accountable, somebody who's been there, done that, and is still doing it? That's me. It would benefit you if you had a customized checklist with exactly how you could open a profitable group home in 90 days. So imagine 90 days from now, you have a property business on the side of your full-time job that profits an extra $2,000 a month for you and your family. And the business changes lives and helps with the affordable housing crisis. And you have more time and energy for the things that matter the most to you. So that's where my coaching program comes in, Group Home on Autopilot Startup Intensive. It is designed to change your life and the lives of others. So I help people to open their money-making group homes in 6 weeks. So it was a 6-week program. Now it's 90 days. I stretch it out a little bit because I want to make sure you fill your beds. But the beginning part is my 6-week intensive, okay? So I give you a blueprint. I give you the strategy, the system, and the structure, and the accountability piece. So I'm talking to you, you're talking to me, and we meet with each other bi-weekly. You get the startup workbook with all the templates and checklists and scripts. You get personalized accountability and feedback and strategy and direct access to me. And you get your custom to-do list around your timeline and your goals. And you also get lifetime access to my online course. So It is a hybrid program, meaning you get one-on-one calls with me, but we also have group calls with everybody else who's in the coaching program in the online community. So the first thing we focus on in my coaching program is the property acquisition and setup. So the first thing you have to do is secure the house. You have to get the right house first. So you get the house, you set it up correctly, and I teach you the exact criteria. I went over some of the criteria tonight, but I show you the exact criteria to look for in a house. For example, at least 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, close to public transportation. And then I also give you that landlord pitch script that I mentioned. So that way you know exactly what to say to potential landlords, so they'll allow you to sublease their property to other people. And also, I go over how to set up your business. So I don't set up the business for you, but I show you how you can use LegalZoom or Busy or Taylor Brands. And there's a whole lot of other places you can go to get your LLC set up so you can take advantage of those tax deductions that I talked about. The next thing, so once you have the right property secured and you have it set up for shared living, the next thing we focus on is the marketing, because you need a steady pipeline of qualified residents who can actually pay rent and not cause you problems. So I give you my demand pipeline activation system where you're going to build up your network before you even finish setting up the house. I also give you my 14-day outreach plan, so you know exactly what to do with your marketing so you can connect with organizations and the people who are going to fill your beds, especially if you're going to do shared bedrooms. Shared bedrooms are harder to fill than private rooms because everybody wants a private room, but it can be done. The shared bedrooms can be done as long as you reach out to the right people and the right organizations. So I teach you how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. I give you my caseworker outreach scripts because the caseworkers and the social workers are the people who have access to the demographic that you're going to house. And they're the ones they're actively looking for quality housing options for their clients. When I first started, that was one of the biggest mistakes I made, was targeting all of my marketing to the people who were going to fill the beds, the people who were going to be in the beds. That's not who I needed to target. I needed to target caseworkers and social workers. That's who my marketing needed to be targeted to, not the people who are going to be sleeping in the beds. Because the caseworkers and the social workers are the ones who are going to help me to fill the beds. They're the ones who are more responsible and they have direct access to these people who need help. And these people get SSI and SSDI, so they have guaranteed income. So that's who you need to target, is the caseworkers and social workers. And remember that whether the bed is full or not, you still have to pay rent or mortgage, and you still have to pay the utilities and the startup costs. So that's why it's very important that you get your marketing down. So we spend a lot of time on marketing in my coaching program. And like I said, I give you 101 ways to fill your beds. And then I also give you my call scripts, so the phone call scripts, the email scripts, because we're going to turn these caseworkers into referral partners. They're going to be referring people to you all the time. Plus, I give you my 1-day open house event plan that can fill multiple beds in a single day. Like my client Kenya, who filled 5 of her 9 beds in a single day when she did her open house event. Okay. And then lastly, the last thing we focus on after you've secured the property, you have it set up for shared living, and now you have this steady pipeline of quality residents through your marketing efforts. What you won't have is the systems. So this is the autopilot piece. You need the systems to run the business without it consuming your entire life. A lot of people think once they get the residents in that they're done. That's when reality hits. That's when they start getting calls at all hours of the night about house issues. They're dealing with roommate conflicts, or they're chasing down rent payments, and they're basically becoming a full-time house manager instead of a business owner. I want my coaching clients to be business owners, not full-time house managers. Plus, if you're stuck managing every little detail of house number 1, then you can't scale to house number 2. And one property making $2,000 a month is not going to give you the financial freedom that you're looking for. So what I do is give you my operations autopilot system that turns your shared housing into a almost hands-off income stream. I'm not going to say it's completely passive because it's not completely passive, but it is almost hands off. You get my house manager options and onboarding workflows that handle 90% of the day-to-day operations without you. I show you how to set up automated payment systems and maintenance protocols and conflict resolution processes. I also teach you my standard operating procedures, my SOPs, so that the house runs smoothly, whether you're there or not. Everything that I have created and collected over the past 6 years of running my 3 co-living homes from afar, I give that to you in a digital workbook. So you can take that and you can change it up the way you want to change it. You can put your business name, slap your logo on it, and then you're done. You have all of your systems and processes documented. You have all of your documentation because I have already put it together for you. Then if you decide that you want to step back even further from the business, then I teach you what to look for in an operations manager. Then you can take those documented processes and hand it over to an operations manager. And then he can be the one who's running the day-to-day operations of the house. And then you're just collecting the money on the first and you're paying bills. And that's about it. And you can go and visit the house if you want to. I go and visit my houses quarterly. That's always my goal, is to go quarterly. And then here's the best part. Once you have property number 1 up and running and on autopilot and hitting target occupancy, then you will know exactly what to do to duplicate that model and open house number 2. So who is my coaching program for? So maybe you've wanted to start investing in real estate, but you just don't know how. Or maybe you're a social entrepreneur. You really want to do good for society, and you also want to do good for yourself. So you want to do something meaningful for your city and your country and the world by helping with the affordable housing crisis. Or maybe you already have real estate, but you want to get better returns on your investment. So the American Society of Training and Development did a study, and they said that people who write down their goals privately and don't mention their goals to anyone are not likely to reach their goals. When you announce your goal to a coach or a trusted friend, now you're 65% more likely to achieve your goal. But when you give a weekly progress report to a coach or a friend, now you're 95% more likely to achieve your goal. So it's very important that you build a support system and that you have accountability. Get yourself a coach or a mentor, whether it's me or someone else. Make sure you have a coach, because that's how you succeed in this business. All right, false beliefs. So let's do some myth busting. So I need to own a home to have a group home. You don't have to own it. You can rent the house. Do you think every doctor who works out of a building owns the building that she's working out of? No, she doesn't own the building. She just works out of it. You could do the same thing with a group home, with a co-living home. You could just rent the property. And my client, Kenya, like I said, she got the keys to her rental home in week 3 and then had her open house week 6. She's renting the house. So you can also pay for a shortcut. I don't know if I said that. You can pay for someone to find the landlord for you. So you can pay this company. There's a company called Rental Home Locator. They will find the landlord for you. That's how you pay for a shortcut. So you can pay them to find the landlord for you. And then I hear this one a lot. Homeless people don't have money. So a lot of the people who I house receive Social Security money. They get SSI or SSDI or even VA money. They just don't get enough money to pay for their own place. And plus, a lot of working class people are also considering co-living now too. So my residents are all on Social Security and other types of welfare. And so they can pay for their place to live. They just don't make enough money to pay for their own apartment and to also pay for food and transportation and the utilities too. And then running a group home will be a full-time job. So not the way I teach it. When I opened all 3 of my co-living homes, I had a full-time job. I was a supervisor of supervisors. So I was a manager working for the federal government. I was very, very busy. And I still was able to open these 3 co-living homes in San Antonio while I was living in Los Angeles. Now, I used my leave. They said I earned and burned. I would earn leave hours and I would burn those leave hours because I wanted to go and visit my homes. But also, I had a remote job, thank God. So I could go out there and work like half days on my government job. And then the rest of the day, I was working on my group home business when I was flying out there. So it does not have to take up all your time. And then I won't be able to fill the beds. So I teach you how to fill the beds. I give you 101 ways to fill your beds. So you absolutely will fill your beds. Okay, here are some client success stories. We've got Kenya and Janice. I have some other ones too. A lot of people are camera shy, but I do interview people on my YouTube channel once they open their homes. So you can go to my YouTube channel and see some of the people who have opened their co-living homes by using my process. And also, if you've been watching a lot of trainings like YouTube University, you're taking notes, but you're not taking action, I want you to find an accountability partner. So whether it's a coach, a mentor, whether it's me or somebody else, get yourself an accountability partner. You need somebody who's going to ask you, did you do what you said you were going to do? Because your group home or co-living home is not going to open itself. And momentum loves company. So you need to have somebody you can talk to so that you can get started and get this done. Okay, so I have two options for my coaching. The first option is the self-paced option. This one doesn't come with the one-on-one, but it does come with lifetime access to video modules. So on the video modules, it's not the YouTube videos, it's other videos telling you the implementation. So the YouTube videos are all like the what, whereas the coaching program is the how. It's exactly how to do it. So you get lifetime access to video modules where I'm teaching you exactly how to open your own profitable co-living business. You get the digital workbook with the templates, scripts, and the standard operating procedures, the 14-day marketing outreach plan, the open house event plan, and you have access to the free online community. It's called Skool, Skool, the Skool community, where you can ask questions and you can talk to other people who are also on their co-living journey. So this option does not come with the one-on-one coaching, but this option is great for you if you're like, you know what, just give me the information. I'm going to take it and go. And remember, with this information, you will make $2,000 a month until you decide to stop. You will make $2,000 a month. The price on this is $19.97. So there is a QR code. If you're watching this on your computer and you have your phone available, snap a picture of the QR code. So if you are like, this is the one for me. I don't need the one-on-one. I don't need the hand holding. I just want to get the information so I can open up. Then you can go ahead and register directly. You can register. And when you register, you get the information immediately. So you get access immediately to all the information. So for the self-paced, I do have a payment plan as well. So you don't have to pay $19.97 today. What you could do instead is do these 3 payments of $747. So it does come out to a little bit more than the $19.97. The total investment is $22.41 if you decide to do the 3 payment plan. But that also is an option, and that link is in the chat too. So the self-paced paid in full is $19.97, and then you also have the payment plan option, which is $747 over 3 months' time. So you pay $747 today. A month later, you pay $747, and then a month later, you pay $747. So it comes out to $22.41. But remember, you're going to make $2,000 a month after you have your home open and occupied. You should book a call with me. I believe I also put the link for this, I think, is also in the chat if you want to just sign up directly. But if you want to hear more about this before you sign up, please book a call with me. We have talked about so far mindset, setting up the business, getting the house, and the marketing. But what about the day-to-day? So that's the operations. So that's the intake, setting expectations with your residents and the house rules and the common challenges, and also ways to collect rent. So how do you pay for a shortcut for this step? I have already documented all the operations in that digital workbook. So I've already documented all of the house rules, the intake questionnaire, the lease agreement, the house signs, all documented already in the digital workbook, which you can take and change it up to the way you want, put your own logo on it, and boom, you have all of your documentation done. So that's how you pay for a shortcut for step number 5. So now you've got the house open, you filled the beds, and you're pocketing that money every month, at least $2,000 a month, depending on the number of beds that you have. Now what? So now we need to turn this whole thing into a well-oiled machine, and we need to scale it. So let's get to the apex of the pyramid and what makes group home on autopilot different from every other group home and co-living program that is out there right now. And that is the autopilot part. So this is how you scale. So once you get through the hard knocks and the learning curve of your first house is the hardest because you don't know what you don't know. So it is the absolute hardest. But once you get through that and you get through the learning curve of that, you're going to fill it up. You're going to be ready for your next house. But how do you do that? How do you open and operate another home? And how do you do it remotely? How do you scale? I'm going to give you my toolkit. My toolkit is all of the resources and the tools that I use. I'm talking like technology tools, all the resources in my tech stack, all of the tools that I use to make my life easier. I give you a full list of the tools that I use and how I use them so that I can make this a very simple business to run on the side of my whole life that I have going on the side of this. So I give you my weekly and my monthly actions. So what I do during my CEO hour, what I discuss with my operations manager, what his duties are, his contract, all of that. I teach you how to hire another you, which is the operations manager. I teach you what to look for in that person, what his duties are, his contract. I give you the contract to give them. So I give you all of that. And then how to train them and how to pay them. So I go over that in my program. And then I also teach you how you can handle your accounting in a very systemized way. So I go into the profit first accounting system, but specifically for a co-living business. So I teach you how to do your monthly accounting very easily and simply in my program. So now I have covered all 6 steps of how to open and operate your own profitable co-living business. I hope you've gotten something out of this. And before I go, we are going to get into some Q&A. So again, if you want to book a call with me to discuss either one of those options, please book a call with me so you know which one is right for you. I have the self-paced option, and then I also have the elite launch. So the self-paced option, you can register directly if you'd like, and you get instant access to everything. You get lifetime access to the video modules that teach you exactly how to open and operate your co-living home, plus that digital workbook that I talked about. Now, this option does not come with the one-on-one coaching, but for some people, they're like, I don't need the one-on-one. I have everything right here. So you can watch this at your own pace. Also, I didn't add that it comes with an app. So you can have the app on your phone and you can listen to the trainings. You can just like binge watch / listen to the trainings on your phone if you want to. So you don't have to be on the computer. So if you want to register, that's the link right there. There's also a link in the chat for the payment plans. And then there's also, and again, the self-pace is $19.97. And then there's the elite launch. Now that's everything that's in the self-pace. Plus you also get the 90 days of coaching with me. There's the link again to book a call if you want to scan it with your phone, with your camera. And in closing, think back to that vision that you have for your life, which I talked about in the very beginning of this. Where do you see yourself a year from now? And where do you see yourself 3 years from now and 5 years from now? If you don't take any action at all, a year will pass and it will be May 21st, 2027, and you will still be thinking about opening your co-living home when you could have already opened your co-living home and been making money. A lot can happen in a very short amount of time. You just have to make a decision. You have to make a decision. So you have to cut off everything else. You have to cut off everything else and make a decision. And just once you make that decision, then that's it. You've changed your life. All you have to do is make that decision. And people ask me all the time, well, how come it costs so much? You know what? People who pay attention. Once you pay for that money, that's when you've made the decision. And that's when you are going to be successful, when you make that payment. So if this is something that's been on your heart for a long time, just go ahead and do it. That's my advice to you. Just go ahead and do it. Okay. So if you're still here, then something is resonating with you. So you can use the link in the chat to book a call with me or use one of the links to get started. So thank you for joining. And I am going to take questions.